What's going on, guys? Intech here, and today I have a special edition of Unturned update. Today, Nelson had a development stream, and I sat and took notes, about 5 pages worth of notes of everything important that was said about 3.0. So I'm just going to read through everything I said while you see some gameplay in the background, and I'll add my thoughts about some things here and there, but I just basically just going to read you everything that was said because there's some really awesome, important things. So first and foremost, now he said this a ways into the stream, but it's so big and it made me so happy to hear this that I want to talk about this first. A crafting list system. That means that if you want to make a specific thing, you would select it from a list. So there's going to be an actual crafting list system because currently he said, it's really difficult, especially for new people who are just coming into the game. They need to have something a little bit easier. So hopefully we have a pretty full, flushed out crafting list system when things get going with 3.0. So that's huge. That's the first bit of huge news. Alright, so I'm just going to read through this, so bear with me. There's a lot of stuff, but it's also very important. And I wanted to make a video about this so you have documentation and you can go back and re-watch it and listen to it to find all the things that were spoken about in the 3.0 development stream while he was sitting there editing the level. So first and foremost, the stream was about the in-game editor, making a city, and he showed animations, he showed various things in terms of like building the materials and things like that. So the stream was basically, he was just working on something. I think it was for the test city of 3.0 preview when that eventually comes out. So it was really cool to see what he was going to put into the game, and he was developing this nice hillside landscape, and it was really sweet, and I can't wait to make the city that I have sketched out. I mean, it's massive, and I plan on having huge mountains and stuff like that. It's going to be pretty awesome. So he worked on various road types. He showed various road types, such as 2-way and 4-way roads, windy roads, things like that. And basically, there's a node system where you can click specific points and make a path, and the road will actually morph to that path. And you saw that in the editor video as well, but it's just something to note about that, how easy it is to work with the editor. I mean, it's very, very simple. He showed 4-way intersections, various controls and key bindings for easy snap placements. I mean, you can copy whole sections of roads and put those down in the editor, things like that. And then he did make mention about something that I wanted to know about, which was, could you stack multiple buildings on top of each other and make like tall apartment buildings or skyscrapers and things like that? And he said yes, he plans on having the ability to stack buildings to have taller buildings. So I know people can obviously model those in and things like that, but that is something that you should be able to do in the editor, which is pretty cool. He talked about the modding and workshop, and he might put in the ability to like code in the future, so you can actually do your own coding and modding and things like that. He was talking about various people's maps, like if you make a map and you put it onto the workshop or something like that. He said you can't directly edit that map, but you can make a copy of it and then edit it after that point and then upload your version of it if you want to improve upon something, or maybe you're like, oh, I want to play with this map with my friends, but I wish it had this one thing, or I wish the spawn rates were a little bit different or something like that. He talked a little bit about server lists and how you can search based on filters, max players, the map, etc., things like that, which I imagine that you're going to probably be able to have like the history or your favorite maps or things like that. So being able to go to the favorite server that you want to go to, I imagine is something that a lot of people would like to have, so I imagine it's going to be in the game. He said 3.0 full release map will be 16 times the size of PEI. That is friggin' huge. He said fishing will be implemented in the future. There will be new gameplay aspects such as fishing and admin controls, so you can do a little bit more with your own server, control like time of day and things like that. He talked about forests, because now this is something that I'm actually really interested in, because I want to have a really dense forest on my map. Like, we want to have a lumberjack location, essentially, a lumber yard and things like that. And he said he will give us the option to configure tree density on a map. So, currently it kind of just maps everything all over the place, but he said he wants to add that ability to have a really dense forest. Now, he said obviously there's going to be FPS issues and things like that to keep in mind of, but honestly, with the optimizations he's been talking about in 3.0, honestly, I think that having a dense forest is not going to be an issue. He talked about train tracks, crash trains, and maybe even a drivable train in the future. He talked and showed an example of in-game animation, which was pretty cool. He showed the chopping tree animations, the gun animations, reload, pulling it from your back, inspecting the gun, like where you hold T and you can look at your gun, and you're going to be able to see, everyone else is going to be able to see what you're doing, so you can see if someone is aiming down the sights and being aggressive, or, and they have proper animations for standing and crouching and being prone. Like, they're all really well done, and things look very smooth, so that was really cool to see that. He also made mention about the ability to see guns and items on people if they have those things equipped in hot slots, for like your backpack or on your back or whatever. So if you're like, oh, hey, that guy's got a Timberwolf, I'm going to kill him. That's a risk that's going to be added into the game, thus increasing the dynamics of the game, which is really, really awesome. I'm actually really excited for that. So, next page. He made mention about the possibility to have tools that will allow you to randomly generate a level, have a random biome seed or something like that, where you can have, a snow map and things like that. So it's really cool. Like, that's really exciting. And so you can, maybe if you want to design your own level, like actually draw it out, or if you want to just take a chance and say, hey, maybe I'll get a really sweet looking level. You can just sit there and randomly generate levels over and over again, thus increasing the replayability of the game, and creating certain things that maybe are very specific to this random chance that you have that no other level has. And he also talked about how you can manipulate the editor to allow you to make like caves and things like that, which is kind of interesting, and I'm looking forward to experimenting with the editor to see what I can come up with. He says he has plans for undo buttons in the editor, which is pretty cool because, during the stream he was getting kind of annoyed at the fact that, this is why we need an undo button, because he would accidentally, lower a specific part of a hill or something like that. So having an undo button in the editor is going to be pretty huge. He talks about, now this is pretty cool. I was really excited to hear this. Barricading windows and doors. So if you can fortify a building if you want, rather than building a base, or if you just need to do it in a pinch to survive the night or something like that. He says he wants to be able to have the ability to walk up to a window with boards in your hand, or I don't know how he plans on doing it, and then snap it to the window to make a barricade on the window. Now, obviously, you can probably destroy that and things like that, but that's a freaking cool system that I cannot wait to see in game, because that is going to provide a really in-depth level of realism to the game that I think a lot of people will really like. He talked about the American map, which is really cool. He talks about how he wants to have a massive prison and a massive hospital in the main city. And then he also said he wants to have a cross-map train track. And so, there could be just like a randomly crashed train somewhere on the level. It's 16 times bigger than PEI, guys. So think about how big PEI is, and then think about how big this map's going to be. Like, that's going to be freaking awesome. Actually, I don't know if it's going to be the American map or if he's going to have multiple maps, how it's going to work. But he said the 3.0 main map is going to be 16 times bigger than the PEI map. So whether that's, something new or the American map, I'm not entirely completely sure about. If you were in the stream and you heard specifically what he said, because I think he said American map, but I'm not entirely sure, can you please leave it in the comment section below to correct me if I am wrong? He talks about how he wants to add control over weather in 3.0, such as rain or snow. And then the server admin can maybe set a % chance of something happening, or to have it happen every 10 days or something like that. So, having the ability to control what happens on your server is going to be pretty sweet. He said for a big city map, he wants to have a subway system. So I'm pretty sure he said that about the American map, that he wants to have a subway system. So, that's pretty sweet, too. He goes on to talk about zombie types, like special zombies, tougher zombies, different zombie skins based on server clothing options. So you can actually have, kind of randomly generated zombies. So that's pretty cool. He said if people speed hack, now here's a little bit about hacking and things like that. If people speed hack, that person will be frozen in place and will be able to be killed to prevent speed hack problems, while the speed hacker thinks he's speed hacking around the level or something like that. So his body's actually frozen and he's just going to randomly die because people are going to be like, get the speed hacker, So that's pretty cool. I haven't experienced that myself, but I imagine that's an annoyance for most people on certain servers. He goes on to talk about how many people will be able to get on your server when 3.0 is initially released, and he said that it's probably going to be capped at 30 players initially, but it might have 100 or more eventually. So that's pretty. Imagine a massive map with 100 people on it. That's going to be sweet. He also demoed the ragdoll physics in stream, which was pretty cool, and they're not clunky or blocky like I think most people probably thought they were going to be like, but they're rather natural, and they had force applied correctly. So if you're on top of a building and you get shot as you're jumping off, you actually would fall and land the way that you would think you were going to fall. Maybe you're flipping over or something like that. And then if you're like running and you were shot from behind, you would actually travel forward a bit, corresponding to how the shot actually hits you, or from the side or whatever. So it's actually applied very correctly, and it looks really sweet. He talks about graphical settings and configurations and how they save to the cloud now, so you can actually change and swap computers, which is actually something that I'm really looking forward to, because I actually go between two computers, and I would actually like to be able to hop on my laptop as I'm on the road or something like that and be able to play the game. So I'm really looking forward to that aspect myself. He also showed this freaking epic fog density system, and it obviously depends on what you set it to in the server, but I mean, it was in relation to the landscape height and how dense you set it to. You can change the color, brighten it up, darken it, whatever you want to do, and it was just freaking awesome. I mean, it was probably one of my favorite parts of the stream, seeing that, and then seeing him actually in game walking around it. It looks so freaking cool. And then he also showed clouds and colors of day and night cycle and things like that, which is pretty cool. He wants to add street lights in houses that like a light switch that you can actually walk up to and flip on, and you can light up the house and stuff on the street if you have generators. Or he also made mention of this, which would be freaking sweet. Certain cities, like large cities or something like that, might have a power plant, and you can actually go and take fuel to it a bunch of times probably and fill it up, and then you can actually turn on the generator at the power plant and light up the whole city. How freaking sweet would that be? So you actually have a fuel system that would have run out eventually. You have to keep it fueled to light the place up. Like, that is so cool. That level of realism is amazingly astounding, and I cannot wait. And then I also asked him a question in stream if he plans on adding kill feeds and allowing server chat messages to fade out, as well as in 3.0 preview, what's going to come before 3.0 actually comes out. So it's like the beta of the beta. If the map editor will be available, and if so, can we save that map and then port it over to the full build of 3.0, when that actually comes out. And he said that kill feeds will actually only show up in the console, and then he also said that chat fade seems pretty important, like a lot of people like that. And then he said, yes, the map editor will be 100% public in the 3.0 preview. So I imagine that means that you're going to be able to transfer that over. So, because I mean, you're gonna what reason would you not have to try out the 3.0 preview, to help expedite the process of 3.0 full release getting out. So, when 3.0 preview comes out, you're going to be able to do map editor and save that probably and port it over. So that's pretty cool. All right, so this little bit of next information that I'm going to tell you is not in any order, so if I go back and forth between things, forgive me, it's just how I wrote things down. He showed some in-game gameplay demonstrating some animations. He showed how the server owner can set the time of day, the length of the day, so maybe if you want to make it all daylight or something, you can probably do that. He showed the fog, and like I said, the fog looks freaking awesome. It was so cool to see that. And then he also showed some item physics and how they stack and fall over, how you interact with the items if you die and things like that. It's pretty cool to see. He said he wants to add the ability to drag items around the inventory to make things easier. And then he also wants to be able to maybe add the ability to drag bodies around eventually. So, I don't know. Drag some bodies around, you can probably do that. He said he wants to add the ability to drink directly from the water source without the canteen. So somebody was asking, like, hey, why would you have a canteen then? And he said, like on certain maps, if there's not a lot of water, you want to make sure you have a canteen with you so you can have water as you're crossing a desert or something like that. So, that was pretty cool to hear that you can actually drink directly from the source. He also said, this is pretty cool, he wants to add the ability to swim underwater in 3.0, so you might have some oxygen bars or something like that. And then he also said maybe there's going to be the ability to have a specialty class like a diver, so you can swim underwater longer or something like that. So if you were evading shots, maybe you want to swim underwater. Now this is pretty cool to see. he also spawned in like thousands of guns and items into the game, and it lagged for a little bit, but then it actually recovered. And he was talking about how, and I don't fully understand this, but he was talking about how the server handles the items and how it like logs it into the memory, and then how things are optimized. So like it lagged for a little bit, but then he was fine. He was running around, it was no problem. And then he kept adding items in eventually, and then it eventually crashed after it was like, I mean, thousands upon thousands of items in game. So that's not going to happen. So if he's running the game on whatever he's running and he spawns in like 1,000 items and he has an issue for a little bit, but then everything's fine, like that's kind of pretty cool about optimization. So I think he actually makes mention about how he said if you have issues now with running the game in 3.0, he says hopefully those things will be gone due to the optimization. So I think a lot of people who can't currently run the game as well might be able to run it fairly, decently in the future. All right, so this next part's pretty cool because somebody asked, what does he want to do with the zombies and how they interact with like the moon phases like he was talking about. And he said he wants to have zombies spawn in waves, like a massive horde of zombies will come on a full moon. So you actually have time to fortify your base and keep things built up. So you actually will have to defend your base now, not only from players, but probably also massive zombie hordes every so often. So that's pretty cool to hear like that might actually come into the game. He said he also wants to improve car headlights in 3.0, and that each car will have its own unique sounds, horn, engine, etc. And so like maybe you have an ice cream truck and it'll have its own thing when 3.0 comes out. All right, so here's a bunch of miscellaneous kind of things that I didn't really have like places to group them together. He talks about how he wants to eventually have helicopters, but not planes. He said you can make your own road models, like textures, I imagine, probably. And then, like I said, he made a lot of optimizations, so if you're having issues in 2.0, you might not have the same in 3.0. Something cool that I like that he showed and talked about was the editor's ability to map paths to make roads easily in various types of road textures, model roads for inner city use with sidewalks so you can easily put down buildings that are on the same levels, the ability to change size radius of brush tools to change the strength and height of the brush to allow more taller hills and mountains, and it looks like you can actually raise and lower what you place as well as smooth and flatten out those things so it's not really rigid looking, and it just gives a really cool looking hilly effect, which was really awesome to see. He showed textures for grass, stone, dirt, roads, sand, farmland, dirt, and more probably. He showed right at the end of the stream like barn and gravel texture that he wants to work on, so there's going to be a lot of textures that you can put into the game. He talked about handcuffs for hostage situations, especially when it comes to using players for their class specializations and their skills. So, you might not want to just like straight up kill somebody that you find on a server. You might actually want to take them hostage and say, hey, we need a mechanic to fix our car. Get on it. We're going to take you hostage and you're going to fix our car and then we're going to let you go. So, this is really cool to hear about how you can probably going to be able to bind people up and actually take them hostage. And then he also showed a new edge of road guardrails, so you can actually place them down in the editor and actually have guardrails along the road. And then he also said, he made mention about how he doesn't want to have tree saplings or plantable trees, but maybe he'll make a way so that you can actually remove tree stumps. So that's it for everything that I had written down from the stream. He's going to be streaming tomorrow. His Twitch name is dev_Nelson. You can just go check that out. He said he's going to probably be streaming tomorrow. He's going to be working on a lot of assets like furniture and different buildings and things like that. And, it was a really cool stream, and he interacts with the people in stream. So, hop on over to the stream tomorrow. Check him out. Follow him so you know when he's doing these dev streams. Pay attention to Steam and Reddit and places like that so you can be informed about when these things go live in case you missed it, and just show your support for 3.0 and go on over and tell him how great of a job he's doing, because he's doing a really good job for what he has time wise and things like that, and it's just working really hard. So I think you guys should definitely show your support and let him know how awesome things are going. So that's all I have for today. It was a really important Unturned update video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. If you did, make sure to click that thumbs up button below. Please share this information with your friends so that they're aware of what's going on. Send them the link to my video or whatever. And then also, if you're new to the channel, feel free to subscribe for more content from Unturned, and check back regularly for Unturned content as well as other game content. So thanks for watching, guys. Until next time, stay safe out there and hype up 3.0. You guys rock. See you next time.